Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, or welcome if you are new to my channel. Glad to have you here. And first things first, Happy New Year, Happy 2025 to everybody out there, as we're now a couple days into the new year here. Um, I'm wearing my Twilight Zone shirt, just to point that out. Um, so I'm excited. We're into the 1981 part of the 1980s horror series, and we're going to kick it off with a movie that's really become, I don't know if about one of my favorites, but it's a movie that I really like and enjoy each time I watch it. And that's because it has a personal sort of connection to me. And that movie is Evilspeak from 1981, of course. I have it on DVD here. This is a physical media 1981 horror movie review. I'll have a couple coming up that won't be. I'll be streaming them. So, but Evilspeak from 1981. I've only seen this movie twice and watched for this review. The first time about a year ago or so on Shudder, I believe. Um, but it's grown on me. I really like this movie. So let's just go ahead and get into Evilspeak from 1981 here with Clint Howard. So, Evil Speak is a 1981 American horror film directed by Eric Weston and co-written by Weston and Joseph Garofalo. The film stars Clint Howard as an outcast cadet named Stanley Coopersmith, who frequently gets tormented by his mates and advisors at a military academy. Upon finding a book of black mass that belonged to the evil medieval Father Lorenzo Esteban, he taps through a computer to conjure Satan and summon spells and demons to get revenge upon his harassers. So basically, the movie opens in the 16th century. Spanish Satanist Father Lorenzo Esteban and his followers are told by a priest that they are banished to America and denied God's grace unless they renounce Satan and their evil ways. Currently, in modern times, Stanley Coopersmith is a cadet at West Andover Military Academy. He is an outcast, bullied by classmates for being an orphan, and maltreated by his instructors who think him stupid. While cleaning the church cellar as punishment, he finds a room belonging to Esteban containing books of black magic. He uses his computer skills to translate one book from Latin into English. The diary includes rituals for performing the Black Mass and a promise by Esteban, I will return. So, yeah, that's kind of the setup and the premise, the beginning of Evil Speak. As far as the cast goes, we have Clint Howard as Stanley Coopersmith, R.G. Armstrong as Sarge, Joseph Cortez as Reverend Jameson, Claude Earl Jones as Coach, Haywood Nelson as Kowalski, and Don Stark as Bubba Caldwell. For those of you that don't know, Don Stark played Donna's father on that 70s show. And I didn't even realize that was him right away in this movie. The first time I watched it, I didn't realize it wasn't until I got my notes here that I realized that that was Don Stark because he didn't have, of course, the big white afro in this movie like he does on that 70s show. Also, this was about what 25 years no 15 years before that 70s show, so he's a lot younger in this movie than he was in that show. So I just never put two and two together, but that was kind of cool to see. So yeah, that's the setup, the premise, and the cast for Evil Speak from 1981. As I said, I really enjoy this movie, and it definitely has a personal connection for me, which I'll get into in my review here. But I just think it's a very fun early '80s horror movie that works a lot more than it doesn't. Not to say that it's perfect; it definitely has its flaws, and I think depending on um, if you have the personal connection that I do, the flaws are going to vary to not really seeing them as much to seeing them a lot more. So let's just go ahead and get into it, starting with the pros for this movie. And the first thing you have to start with is the performance by Clint Howard and his performance as Stanley Coopersmith. I think it's one of the better lead horror performances in a horror movie. He's so believable playing this sort of meek and nerdy guy, at least at the start of the movie, being an easy target for bullies and ultimately getting pushed to the brink though where he has to use evil for revenge. I believed him every step of the way. I just think that it's Clint Howard's best performance. I've seen him in a few other things, and he's a good actor overall, but I really like him in this movie. I just think he really portrays this character about as well as you can. And I think if you get the wrong actor in that role, this movie doesn't work nearly as well. So Clint Howard's performance definitely at the top of the list as far as a pro for this movie. I think the whole premise is just very well done and totally relatable here for me. Having been bullied in the past, and this is the personal connection I have, I was bullied to some great regularity in my high school and school days. So I could totally relate to this character of Stanley Cooper Smith here. Although I like to think I wasn't quite as well, I probably was. I'm not going to say that, but looking at it now, I'd like to believe I wasn't quite as milk toast as he is at the beginning of this movie, particularly. But certainly was the sort of aspect of kind of being a loner and isolating and being an easy target. I can definitely relate to that, and I think the movie does a really good job of portraying that bullied character aspect. Um, and it also does a really good job of pushing our dislike uh and hatred eventually of these bullies, which I could totally relate to as well. So when it comes to the end of the movie, you really don't feel for them that much. They kind of feel like they get their comeuppance here, as it were, because of the things that they do, not only to Cooper Smith, but then let's just say there's a pet that he has that's involved here, and I won't go any further than that. And once that happens, it's gloves off time at that point. They deserve everything they get, even if it's conjuring up evil from the 16th or 17th century. It's gloves off. It's game on. As a viewer, we're on board for them getting their comeuppance after that, especially. So. That's very much a pro. The movie's very well paced. It's only about 90 minutes or so, so it doesn't overstay its welcome. I was never bored by it. I know there's some people that have talked about it takes a while to get into this movie, but for me and the personal connection that I have to the movie, I was on board for it. I wasn't bored. I didn't feel like there was any scene that was unnecessary. I didn't feel like there was any filler in this movie. I thought everything had a reason for the season, had a purpose, and is a very effective. And it all leading up to the last 15 minutes of the movie. Um, I thought it worked very well. Every scene has a reason, as I said. I think the practical gore effects and makeup effects are good for the most part in this movie, especially when we get to our big climax here, the last 15 minutes. I found them to be really effective and enjoyable. Again, probably more than some other people that saw more of the flaws because I had the personal connection to the main character of this movie. I really love the setting of this dark, grungy basement slash crypt that Stanley discovers as he's sent there to clean for punishment. This is the place where Stanley conjures up the evil mask with his computer, hides his pup, etc. It's where we spend, I would say, at least half the movie, and I think it's a very effective setting, kind of dark, grungy, creepy, and it gives us more of that connection to the way the movie starts with when it starts in like the 16th century, with our Spanish Satanist, Father Lorenzo Esteban. There's that connection there that works a little better, I think, because of this setting. Um, to modern times, other than the computer, of course, but overall, great atmosphere as a result of the setting that's used in the movie. The movie's well, the movie. Um, I like the movie personally. I've already touched on this, as I find it to be very cathartic in terms of using my love of horror and confronting past trauma of being bullied to a certain extent. Probably not as much as he does in this movie, but I can certainly see where he's coming from and giving the bullies their due justice. I just really enjoyed it, watching how the whole narrative plays out and the personal connection I have to it. Just very cathartic. It's a very cathartic movie to put on. It's one of those movies I could see watching on repeat, especially if I'm kind of feeling my past trauma, whatever you want to say. I don't know about trauma, but like my past bullying, I guess is a better way to say it. This is a revenge movie that I could put on and really feel like fuck yeah kind of thing towards the end there. So yeah, this movie's gonna have a pretty good place in my heart because of that. Um, the movie goes to some pretty dark places as well. It's not afraid to go to dark places, aka a certain dog scene. decapitations, etc. And I appreciate that, while still being fairly campy, as a lot of 80s horror movies were. And there are campy aspects to this movie. It also has more of a serious and dark tone as well. And I thought it really worked well in terms of combining those two. And then my final pro is there's a bathtub scene that I love in this movie for two different reasons. One, it has to do with like boars or pigs attacking a character, and sort of the gore and the creepiness that comes with that in this character's own home. And also, I thought this character had one of the great. Uh, let's just say they have a great aesthetic there, in terms of nudity and what she's carrying. Um, it's just I just thought I just really enjoyed the whole scene, from the nudity aspect to the horror aspect and the attack aspect. And this is another character that kind of deserves what she gets a little bit, but boy does she have a great rack. So yeah, that's gonna sum up my pros for Evil Speak from 1981. Getting on to some cons, I don't have a lot. There are some aspects of the movie that are a bit outdated and haven't aged as well, especially Stanley's possessed floating body in the final climax. It looks pretty fake and not very realistic, especially when you watch it now. You can even see the wire at one point in the church at the end. Some of the gore and blood effects haven't aged as well either. When the caretaker's neck in the middle of the film is twisted by unseen forces and ultimately broken, you can pretty much tell that that was a mannequin that they used there. They probably focus on a little too long at the wrong area. Um, Also, there's a decapitation back in the 16th century. There's a decapitation that also you can tell it's not very real or favorable looking. Also, a mannequin. So those are things like that you're going to notice. It ages itself. Um, there are some pretty strong parallels in copying to the movie Carrie from 1976 that other people have pointed out, with the bullying aspect, the revenge aspect of that bullying. Um, there's a fire at the end that happens to be in a church in this movie, as opposed to a high school gymnasium at a prom in Carrie. Basically, they're just switching it from a girl to a guy. Um, but I also connected with Carrie, even though I'm not a female. I just connected with the bullying and revenge aspect, and those getting their comeuppance that deserve it. But to be honest with you, watching this movie both times that I have, I wasn't thinking, well, they're obviously just ripping off Carrie here. Again, I think it's the personal connection. If you're somebody that doesn't have that, you might see the parallels or the flat out stealing, if you will, to Carrie that came out 5 years before this more than I did. But I just wasn't thinking along those terms. To me, Carrie is its own movie and a very good one. And I think this is its own movie and a very good one. Um, I just didn't see it when I was watching it. But that might turn some people off. The fact that if they do see Carrie a lot in this movie, and the fact that if they feel like this movie just stole from that and basically switched out the main character from a girl to a guy, I don't know. Comment down below if you guys feel that way, if you've seen this movie. And then my final con, it's some of the acting and delivery of dialogue's not great in this movie by the side characters. I will say that Don Stark and Clint Howard are the two standout performances here. Don Stark, who plays Bubba Caldwell, probably our main villain or main bully. I think he does a good job. But some of the other performances by the bullies and even some of the adult characters, they're nothing to write home about. But with that being said, this is a very enjoyable movie for me for personal and horror related reasons. And I can't give this movie anything less than an 8.5 out of 10. So 8.5 out of 10 for Evil Speak from 1981 with Clint Howard. As I said, go ahead and comment down below what you guys think of Evil Speak. Do you like it more than I do, less than I do, about the same? Why or why not in the comments down below. Please like this video, hit the little notification bell, and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my upcoming reviews for this long 3.5 month series for 1981. And with that being said, I hope everybody had good holidays and having a good start to the new year. But as always, stay scared. Bye.